Do you sometimes find yourself stuck in those hard places? Our minds are wired to think about the negatives first, which can really make it so difficult to find that inner joy, inner peace, abundance, and ultimately happiness. In today's episode, I'm joined by Adam Smith, and we're talking all about how to reframe a negative mindset. Adam is a life coach that specializes in mastering your mindset. He started coaching and set up his consultancy agency called A-Game Consultancy with two business partners, both named Adam. A-Game Consultancy is a health and wellness company that specializes in improving internal, mental, and physical health. In this episode today, we're talking about so many different things related to this topic. We're talking about how to handle criticism from people who may not understand what we're doing, the power of reframing our mindsets from negative to positive, happiness as it relates to progress, finding happiness within ourselves versus looking for it externally, why the light at the end of the tunnel is not necessarily the truth, and Adam's 5 pillars of change. I know you're going to love this conversation with Adam, especially if you find yourself in that hard place where you're trying to transform your mindset. I can't wait for you to meet him. Can't wait for us to dive into this conversation. So let's go ahead and get started. Hi, Adam. Welcome to the Happiness Happens podcast. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
It's going to be such a great conversation. We're diving into all things happiness. It's a new year, it's 2022, and there's so much to chat about. So I would love to just start off by hearing a little bit about you, your business, what you do, and then I want to dive into what happiness really means for you.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm Adam. I'm a life coach and mindset coach based in the UK. So I live in a city called Leeds in the north of England. And I was in hospitality for about 14 years. I decided to leave that about 18 months ago, nearly 2 years ago now, and to focus on my coaching business. So I've been obsessed with people and why they do what they do from a very early age. And, I followed the likes of Tony Robbins, Les Brown, Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar for probably 15, 20 years now. So I've always had this, want to understand why people do what they do and how you can change your mindset around it and things like that. So when the opportunity came up for the lockdown, because that's how I looked at it really. I know a lot of people lost their jobs and a lot of other tragedies during lockdown, but for me, it was really the next chapter, the new beginning, as it were, in my life. And it was a perfect opportunity just to hit that pause button, reassess everything, and just leave the life that I'd always known behind because it wasn't serving me anymore. So I enrolled on a course with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, which was called KBB, which is the Knowledge Broker Blueprint course. Essentially what it does, it teaches you how to set up your business through the knowledge that you do have. So initially I thought I'm going to use it for hospitality, but then I thought, well, no, really, hospitality is all about people, as any business is. So I thought I can apply this to doing that because I've always wanted to be around the life coach kind of remit. So set up my own coaching business last, it was the 2020, I think it was June I set up. So about 18 months ago now. So yeah, it was great. And the response initially was just incredible. It was like a split down the middle. I had half people going, "This is incredible." I had half of the old people from my other past life criticizing me and trying to bring me down. So it was very conflicting at the start. There was a lot of rejection involved from people that I thought would support me. And then I had this unwavering support from people that I didn't expect. So it was a very strange experience. And then it got to around December time, and I really missed working as part of the team. So two of my clients that are both actually also called Adam, oddly enough, they were amazing, and I've known them both for years in different areas of my life, but they've never actually met before. But one's a nutritionist and one's a personal trainer. So I thought, well, there's not really anything like this on the market right now that focuses on the physical body, the internal body, and the mental side of it. So I approached them both and said, I've got this idea for a business. What do you think? And they both went, yeah. I was like, oh, that was easy. So they both came on board straight away, and we set up like a week later. So we started that in January of last year, and it's just been incredible. It's really gone from strength to strength. Worked with some great corporate clients, had over 80 one-to-one clients, and it's just been amazing. So that's where we're at so far, and that's a little bit about me and what I do.
That's incredible. Now I'm curious because you did say you faced a lot of people not second guessing what you were doing, but challenging what you were doing, probably saying that it would never work. Why are you doing this? What's the point? Like all that kind of stuff. If you could tell our listeners one thing that you did to navigate that and to really tap back into your full potential and sort of dim that noise, what would you say?
I would say allow it to happen
Mm,
and process it, because me telling everybody to block it out isn't helpful, because that doesn't work.
that's
You
true.
know, just having a thought doesn't work. So we can create our own, new subconscious mind all we want, but it's going to take years of practice. So a lot of people want the instant gratification. So the simple fix is to embrace it. Find somebody external out of your circle that knows what they're talking about, i.e., your coach, therapist, whatever. Just someone that's not as emotionally attached to you, and then explain why it hurt. Because
Mm,
I stored it for so long and brushed it off like, oh, I don't care. That I did care. It hurt, and it hurt big time. Some of these people I've known were for 20, 25 years. I've been to some of their weddings, or I've been on holiday with them, or I've known them since they were 5, 6 years old, and they're the ones that have been the most critical. I couldn't believe it. There was a WhatsApp chat from my hometown of 12 guys that I've known for a very long time that were just openly dissing me on the WhatsApp chat. There was just this big thread of posts insulting my stories, insulting what I was doing, calling me a hypocrite, all this other stuff. And only one of the people actually left the group and had the fortitude, let's say, to keep it PG, to
yeah.
to actually stand up and say this is wrong, and he told me about it. So that hurt like hell for a long time. But I processed it, I verbalized it. There's an old phrase that once you're in your head, you're dead. So if you're just
Mm,
stuck with these thoughts in here, it's almost like committing spiritual suicide, because you're just not verbalizing, you're not getting it off your chest, it's just eating you alive. So I'd always recommend just verbalizing whenever you feel the emotion. Don't judge yourself for feeling the emotion either, because no one ever died from feeling an emotion. So
true.
just sit with it and just embrace it, and don't try to fight it off, because when you fight something, it either has to attack or it has to defend. You don't have to do that. So that's what I would say. But just saying, block out the hate and all that kind of stuff, that's terrible advice in my opinion, because it's a process you have to go through. In time, you learn how to deal with it better, and you just learn to block it out. But that is going to take a lot of hard work.
I totally agree with that. I completely agree with you that it is terrible advice to just say block it out, because when you block it out, you're dismissing how you feel. You're dismissing your purpose. You're dismissing your own passions when you do that. And so I think that's so important that you said to process it and to really sit with it. And I feel like that would be a really hard situation, because these are all people that you probably look to and probably, admired in some sense of the word. And just to have people, because there's a difference between people saying like, I don't really get what you're doing, like why are you doing this, versus
Mhm.
actively being mean and choosing to bring you down intentionally. That's a very different thing to do, and it's so mean spirited to do that. And it always makes me question, I'm sure you've thought about this too, why it actually happens that way. Like, what is bothering that person inside them that makes them feel like they need to go and bring you down when they start seeing you be successful? It's like, you can't be more successful than me. You're in the hospitality industry, you can't do more than me, it's a very interesting conundrum, if you will.
That's the thing, because all the friends that I had weren't that were doing all that weren't actually involved in that industry anyway. So
Mm,
they were all, four of them actually own their own small independent business, and because it's not around bettering yourself,
mm,
you know, they're a variety of different businesses, and they've been doing them for years. So I just thought, I've always supported your pages, I've always shared it, followed it, liked it, whatever. And I started off by doing polls, because when I first started it, I was like, oh, I'm going to do body transformations for people, because I used to be a personal trainer. But then I
mm.
realized I don't want to do that. But I did it anyway, and I was like, who's looking to lose weight right now? And like 8 of them all came on to my post just to say no, just to make the averages look bad. And you're 33, you're married with 2 children, most of you. What are you doing? But it was so ridiculous. But with family, I think a lot of the time it's just because they're there to protect you. And this is why, there's a phrase that we use all the time in our business, which is just that your friends and your family are not your mentors. Your
Mm,
parents are not your mentors, because they care too much. And it's not that they've probably been conditioned one way, from the older generation, and they don't necessarily always, not everybody, I don't want to, put everyone in the same bracket, but most of the time it's you go to work, you work hard, you provide, you put food on the table, da da da, da, that's it, retire, dead. That's what most of the generation was before. So the
Yeah.
entrepreneurial mindset and, new business owner and, oh, it's a pandemic and, oh, it's a this. And I was like, it is, but that's also brings great opportunity, not because I'm an opportunist, but because there's so many people that are struggling right now during a pandemic. Their mental health is on the floor. So I want to help people primarily. And if I can get paid to do it, great, So I'd happily take the same wage that I was on for hospitality for the rest of my life if it's doing something I absolutely love rather than lining somebody else's pocket. But I don't take it personally because, like you touched on before, I don't know anybody that's fully got their lives together
Hmm.
that openly criticizes somebody else.
Yeah.
So, that it was all just now on reflection. I understand it was a projection of their negative emotions. And don't get me wrong, some of it they might not have agreed with, and they might have thought that the business idea was stupid, or they thought that the reel that you posted was embarrassing, or whatever you did, and they didn't quite get it. And that's fine. But I don't have to live my life through other people because
No.
people are going to judge you regardless.
Yeah, exactly. And you're also living your truth by doing those things. Cause like, even when it comes to reels, like I love to post the silly ones that are, it's like a voiceover type of thing on another reel and that kind of thing. Like I love that kind of stuff because I really find like, I don't know, like when I was younger, I used to dance. I used to do musical theater. I always liked to, do that. And so it's like, why not? And I guess it's what is it truly doing to somebody else when you see somebody else coming out of their shell and shining their light. I think it's such an important thing. But again, I think it triggers people in a different way. But I would love to know so much your take on what happiness is and what happiness means. Something I'm diving into deeply this year. I really want to understand it. I want to see what other people feel like it is. So I'd love for you to share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that for me, progress equals happiness.
Ooh.
And that's about it, right? Because, so I'll elaborate. Whenever you think about anything in your life, whether it would be with your career, with your body, your relationship, your business, whatever, when you get like it with your business, say you get a new client, it's like, oh yeah, this feels amazing. Like, what a great day. Happiness.
Hmm.
When you're doing running, let's say you've just started running and you run 5K and you haven't been able to run 5K before and you feel great. I've run 5K and you post it on Facebook. Amazing. But then when the likes come in and the comments stop, it's what now? I want to do the 5K quicker. So then you do your new PB at 5K and then you do it again and then you do it again and then you do it again. Then you get to like 20 minutes by this point and you're killing it and you go, I want to do 10K now. So we're always looking for more in that sense. And that's what I believe happiness really is that when we're just progressing, because I do believe that if you're not progressing at something, you're just dying. And I don't mean literally like, if you're not going out and achieving stuff, but it's just a slow decline. You're just sort of existing. There's no thrive, it's just survive mode. So we want to make sure that you're going head first into something and always giving it your all and always being that 1% better than yesterday. And what I feel a lot of the time, what I see a lot of the time with my clients is they want to go from 0 to 100 in a day or in a week or in a month, fall out of love with it, get overwhelmed. Oh, what am I doing anyway? I'm a loser. I'm stupid. I don't deserve happiness all over again. So I think from a young age, most people are taught that external things bring you happiness. But really, we're just borrowing stuff, everything. All the equipment you've got right now, everything that you're wearing, you're just borrowing it until you die. So it's who you become intrinsically that is really going to create that happiness as opposed to all the external stuff. Because if you're always focusing on the external stuff, you're never going to have enough. So it doesn't matter if you've got a Lamborghini, a Porsche, a Range Rover, a Ferrari, all sat in your driveway. Because then you go, oh, but I really want the Bentley because Joe Blogs next door's got one. As opposed to being really content with who you are, because there's nothing that scares me more than the prospect of crying in my Ferrari one day.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That scares the crap out of me. I don't want that for myself. That I don't want to get to a point where I focused everything on things that I've got and forgotten who it is that I want to be. Because that's all that people are going to remember. They're not going to remember the things on your deathbed. So it's like when you reflect on things. If I said to you, right, I'm going to give you £1 million today, would you like that? Oh, of course I would. Okay, I'm going to give you £1 million today, but you're going to die tomorrow unless you give it back. You'd give it back in an instant,
Yeah, exactly.
because it's all about your health. But only when it's pushed to the extreme do we actually start to value our health and value other things. So yeah, I think that the short answer is that progress equals happiness, but you have to do the work internally before you can rely on the external. Because people say to me all the time, like, oh, in 2 weeks, it's my friend's birthday. It's going to be the best night out. I can't wait. We're going to have the best time. I'm so excited. I'm going to be really happy by the end of that. Well, just be happy now. Why wait? Why delay it?
Exactly. I was going to say, I completely agree with you. And earlier in 2021, I essentially had every single thing that I could have ever asked for in my entire life. Like, actually, everything that I asked for up until this moment, I had received. Obviously, I have goals. Obviously, I have bigger goals, like all that kind of stuff. But the things that were tangible that I could grab right now had all of it. And I had never been more miserable. And it was insane because I was like, I know what this feels like. Like, I study happiness, I read about happiness, I talk about happiness, I have people on the show to talk about happiness. And I was living it. I've achieved all the things that I wanted to do, and now it's still not enough. And then it makes you really reflect and turn inwards. It's like, why does that not feel like enough still? And like, what mental work do I need to do to be able to like process it and find the gratitude in that? It was a wild place to be in. I had never anticipated that at this point in my life that I would have been in that situation, because of all, like, I've been in the self-help space for 3 years. So it's like, and when you're going through something and you actively know what it is that you're in, and you're like, okay, I really got to pull myself now out of this, and it was wild. Okay, but I would love to know, based off of your business through your consulting company, you talk a lot about burnout, you talk a lot about health and wellness, mindset, like all of those different pieces. As you're working towards that progress and continuously progressing towards what it is that you want that brings you that joy and fulfillment, what would you say would be 3 tips, if you have 3, to reduce the burnout that you may feel along the way? Because it's easy when you want to progress towards something to go, go, go. So how would you do it in a way that doesn't allow you to burn out?
Yeah, I think the first thing is know what it is that you don't want. Because when you're in a negative mindset, you can't always see the light, the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel. I hate that phrase, because there's no tunnel. You are the light. It's fine, right? The tunnel doesn't exist. There's no end to this, no finite game, right? But I think that it's the knowing what your desired outcome is very difficult to ascertain when you're in a negative mindset. So it's a lot easier to say what you don't want. Because if you're in a miserable state and you're sick of it and you've really just had enough pain, it's right. I don't want to be overweight anymore. I don't want to cry myself to sleep anymore. I don't want to be having arguments with my partner anymore. I don't want to be working 15 hours a day anymore. I don't want to work weekends anymore. I don't want to take my laptop to bed with me anymore. Whatever it might be. It's a lot easier to start with that don't list to gain a little bit of clarity, because then you can start getting excited about what you do want. So that would be the first one, is start with what you don't want. Then start to dream a little bit, because what's very important, as Tony Robbins talks about, it is look at everything in your life for what it is, not worse than it is. But then eventually you have to look at everything for better than it is, because otherwise you're just going to be sat in this state of what it is, which, if it's misery, isn't going to help you either. So, when we go, for example, like, say my business, my target was £5,000 a month and I'm only doing £1,000 a month. And it's like, okay, oh God, look at it for worse than it is. It's like, oh no, I'm going to be homeless soon. And oh God, I'm such a failure. And that person at school said I wasn't going to be successful, and they're right. No, just look at it for what it is. What approach are you using? Have you got your own coach? Have you got someone to be accountable to? Have you got the right strategy? Do you keep doing the same thing expecting a different outcome? Maybe you could stick or twist it. Maybe you just need to find the right formula that you haven't quite found yet. Now we can look at it for better than it is, because we've addressed it for what it is, and what isn't working. So it might be, what, you're right. From 9 a.m. till 12 p.m., I'm really not productive, and I should be striking when the iron's hot, but I'm not. And that's what's affecting my business. Cool. So if you were to rectify that, how different could it look in 2 months, 3 months? Well, I could double my sales to 2,000. Awesome. Where could you be in 6 months? Well, yeah, I think the 5,000 is definitely achievable because I've got this new business model that I've now found out, etc., etc. So rather than just living in the moment of, oh my God, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to anybody, because 9 times out of 10, it isn't. It's very important for perspective, because otherwise you just sat in that misery and despair. So I'd say, yeah, number one is knowing what you don't want. Number two is look at everything for what it is and just be honest and give it an assessment. And then, yeah, the number three is there's something that we refer to as the 5 pillars of change. So the reason why I'm going to make this 1 point, even though it's 5, it just sort of all ties in together. So this is what we believe is the 5 pillars of change. So you have the first one is you have to be painfully aware there's a problem. So this might be the, weight loss, for example, the button on your jeans flies off, or you're running after your children, you're out of breath, or your partner says to you, if you keep drinking, I'm going to leave you. That's a pretty big pain point. So you best believe they're going to change after doing that. Number two is you have to decide to make a change, because just being aware of it doesn't do anything. Awareness is great, but action's better. It's like, oh, it's Suicide Awareness Day. Well, what's Suicide Action Day? When's that coming along? Because being aware of something doesn't actually change anything. So you have to be, decide to make the change. Number three is to get a strategy. Without a strategy, most people are just painfully aware, then they decide to change. That's it. I've had enough. Diet starts Monday, and then they go out and buy all the healthy food, and by Thursday, they've fallen flat on the face and they've failed because they had no strategy. And people say that practice makes perfect, but the only place that perfect exists is a dictionary. So it doesn't exist. And if you keep practicing it wrong, you just keep going to be really good at doing it wrong. And you're not going to get a good result, even though with all the will in the world, even though you've made that decision in your mind, I want to, just because people want it, they think they're going to get it. No, you've just wanted it. That's it. There's no guarantee of anything right now. That's another problem that we see. Number four is to be accountable to somebody. The only person that you can't lie to is yourself, but the easiest person to lie to is also yourself. At the end of the day, when you look in the mirror and you go, yeah, I've had a really productive day, and you look in the mirror, you go, no, you haven't. You've not done anything. Who are you lying to? What's going on? And you post on Instagram and you put hashtag productivity and I've nailed it and I've done 10,000 steps and I've done this, and you get, oh no, I didn't do any of that. So that can be really painful for people when they don't actually have that self-awareness. And then number five is the most important one, which is take massive imperfect action. So without that imperfect action, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to learn anything, because you're just going to keep talking about it. There's an old expression that a guy called Rob Moore uses, which is that talk doesn't cook rice. We can all talk a great game. There's another great video, which I think you should watch, is called Just Do It by Art Williams. I don't know if you've heard of it before.
No, but I'll put it in the show notes so that everyone can listen or watch it.
Yeah, it's a really simple, very annoying video. So it's from around 1988. And Art Williams is a billionaire now, and he sells life insurance. And he's like a big Texan guy. He doesn't sound very intelligent or very articulate, but he's like, the biggest difference between me and everybody else is I just do it. Oh, I'm gonna achieve my goals next week. Great, just do it. I'm gonna go on a run tomorrow. Cool, just do it. Oh, I'm gonna go set up this business. Right, just do it. It's that kind of method. So just by taking that massive imperfect action is going to leave some clues. So those are the three points for me: is know what you don't want, look at it for what it is. There we go. And then have the 5 pillars of change. If you can follow that method, you'll get a lot of clarity.
I love that. There's so much value packed in there. And you know what you're so right about, especially the last part, number 3, and the imperfect action part. I mean, you can sit and make every excuse under the sun for why you can't do something. But you're right. Just do it. And it's kind of like, if you can't just do it, think about what is underlying there. What is the reason why you feel like you can't do it? You know what I mean? Like, what is that reason? What is that thing that's holding you back? Is it the self-doubt? Is it the belief that you actually can't do it? All of those different limiting beliefs that keep us small and keep us stuck. So I think that is excellent and super, super valuable for everyone to listen to. Okay, I want to ask you this is my last question, is a question that I've asked everyone on the podcast for the last 3 years that we've been on the podcast. And it is, what's one way that someone could create a little more happiness in their day every day starting today?
Watch dog videos on YouTube. No, I would say
I love
probably, yeah,
that.
so simple, but again, it sounds stupid, but it'll definitely make you smile for sure. I would say to create your own happiness, I would say, yeah, just by being 1% better than you were yesterday, focusing on that progress. It doesn't always have to just be performance based either. It could be,
Mm,
you went to go watch your child that one football practice last week and going to do two this week. It doesn't matter, but that will resonate with different parts of the brain and the neurons that are going to send all the positive energy towards, because it's always going to think, oh, this is new. That's good. It's dopamine tick. Happy days. So yeah, I would just say keep focusing on that as much as you possibly can, and understand that, no one achieved anything of greatness on their own. So you can just reach out to somebody and do it with someone, be accountable to somebody, and the growth will be unbelievable. If you give yourself a little bit of time, it's probably taken you 6 months to a year of bad habits to get into a negative mindset, maybe even years. And you can start creating it all in your own terms if you wish.
I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. And where can our listeners find you so they can learn more about you?
Sure. I would say probably Instagram is probably the best bet. And we've got a Facebook group as well called Bring Your A Game. So if you go onto Facebook and type it in the search bar, Bring Your A Game, it's, a like-minded community. It's got about 500 members in it or something like that,
Mm.
just really positive people that are looking to take their lives to the next level. On Instagram, it's A-Game Consultancy, or my personal one is A_Smith_coaching. And yeah, they're probably the best place is to go there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here. This was such an amazing conversation.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to this week's episode on the podcast. I hope you have a beautiful day. Be sure to connect with both of us. Let us know that you're listening. Tag us online so we can see. And remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.